I just wanted to kind of start by giving a little overview of what we've put together as our PerryNext consortium. I'm going to shamelessly just read our mission statement that we created as a team. But PerryNext represents the collective effort of city, county, and state officials, local businesses, and community leaders dedicated to addressing immediate concerns of those affected by the plant closure. PerryNext is the trusted resource for important information regarding the community, business attraction efforts, media responses, workforce resources, and social issues. This coalition will also work on laying the groundwork for long-term economic recovery and revitalization. I'm gonna forget somebody, so whoever I forget, I really apologize, but I'll go through the members that show up. We have a weekly meeting where we all get together virtually and just share what we've learned or have worked on in the last week. And then each group also has a breakout meeting where they can have a more focused conversation. So members of the PerryNext team, City of Perry Leadership, Perry Economic Development, Perry Area Chamber of Commerce, Perry Community School District, the Perry DMAC Vankirk Career Academy, along with DMAC's main campus and DMAC Business Resources, Dallas County Hospital, Greater Dallas County Development Alliance, Greater Des Moines Partnership, the Iowa Economic Development Authority, Iowa Workforce Development, Central Iowa Workforce Development Board, Alliant Energy, Mid-American Energy, and anybody else that I have forgotten. Raise your hand or yell at me afterwards. So I also just wanted to kind of give an overview. I know a lot of these numbers have probably been out and about and have been heard, but really just kind of wanted to help set kind of some of the situations that we're dealing with. So Tyson is closing June 28th. With that, there have been some rumors that they're going to be closing earlier. In our conversations with Tyson, they're on track to staying open through the end of June. Sometimes just based on workforce levels or supply chain, they do adjust that by a week or maybe a small amount more, but they are going to, if they would close early, they would be paying their employees through the June 28th date. So that's going to be just about 1,300 jobs directly tied to Tyson. An economic impact analysis also showed that there could be an additional 500 jobs impacted throughout the community. So some of the ones that we really have an idea about would be their cleaning crew, their cafeteria is contracted, so some of the things like that, but then certainly there could be other ripple effects throughout the community. So approximately 60% of those Tyson employees live in Perry, and the other 40% come from surrounding counties, and of that primarily coming from Polk County and the Des Moines Metro. With that, another thing that we've been having a lot of conversations about is that there's approximately 300 students in the Perry Community School District that have a household tie to a Tyson employee. So that's something that we're going to be watching very closely with the school district, and just really trying to keep an eye on that based on state supplemental aid that's tied to those enrollment figures. So really the major goal of this is just to have a proactive response. One of the things we've learned from other communities is that they don't get as involved as early as Perry did. So we've been getting some good kudos from folks for that. But really it's just about bringing this team together, and you can tell from that list I rattled off, there are just an incredible amount of people and resources and time just completely pouring their heart and soul into this community that really have no obligation to. So we definitely really appreciate that. And everybody has really been very open with their communication and engaged in those conversations. And again, we're sharing information as we learn it as often as we can. We've been having conversations with state leaders. So Governor Reynolds, we did meet with Governor Reynolds, have had quite a few conversations with Senator Green and Representative Nordman. And then we also, Rachel and I and her staff went on the Greater Des Moines Partnership trip, and we were able to meet with both of our senators and then in conversations with representatives, not just Representative Nunn, but others as well, just because of that ripple effect that this closure could have. Kind of one of our big next steps in our process is working on developing a strategic plan to really guide our recovery efforts for the next few years. So that will have some really great opportunities for community input, and we really ask that you share your thoughts and ideas and experiences of how we can get through this together as a community. You know, I have to say I've been pleasantly surprised with how Tyson has worked with the community. They've been very open with us. We have good lines of communication, and we really have established a collaborative working relationship with Tyson Corporate. So I think that's one of the things that has helped us through this process, is we're able to just call or text and fact-check rumors and things like that. So that's kind of a brief overview of kind of where we've been and the team that's been working on this for the last couple of months. So again, thanks to the team, those that are up here, and many others that are out in the crowd. So thank you very much. Now I will introduce, he hates this, but Dr. Tom Burkgren. Dr. Burkgren is our local go-to pork production expert and also comes with decades, even though he doesn't look like he could have decades of experience, decades of experience in the swine veterinarian field. So welcome, Dr. Burkgren.
Thanks, Sven. I want to welcome everybody. I'll be your moderator tonight. We've got a really distinguished, well-experienced panel here, and I really appreciate each of them taking their time tonight to be here to give us updates within their own areas of expertise. And before I introduce the panel, they asked me if I'd just give a few comments from the pork industry side of this and how this affects pork producers. And my main comment is, this is a big deal for pork producers in Iowa. So pork producers in Iowa number about 6,000 people, or 6,000 producers. Of that 6,000 producers, there are 99 producers that have contracts with Tyson for this plant. So on the very micro scale, individual producers are going to suffer some disadvantages from having to deliver to other plants. That includes 3 Tyson plants. They still own Columbus Junction, Waterloo, and Storm Lake. My former clients, most of those are north of here. They'll be going to Storm Lake. But Storm Lake is farther. For certain clients, average about an hour longer on the road. So if you're delivering 5 loads a week to Tyson and Perry, now you go to Storm Lake, it's an additional 5 hours, either for them or for their employees. Additional freight cost, diesel, wear and tear on trucks. So there is a cost to producers. On a more macro scale, it's a big deal because of the way the pork industry and the packing industry is aligned, that going into this fall, there's concern over there's going to be a glut of pigs. And so this plant roughly killed about 2% of the kill in the United States. You think, well, 2%, that's not a big deal. The pork industry thrives on efficiency, and that's especially true about the packing industry. Their margins can be very slim. So both pork producers and the packing industry are coming off one of their worst years, 2023. Pork producers lost an average of about $35 per head. That's the average. So, there's people above that and below that. And that's a big deal for them. But going into this fall, if you look at the economic numbers, shackle space, which is slaughtering capacity, is going to be tight. And now it's going to be even tighter because we lost 2% of our shackle space. So Tyson has said they're going to retain about 90% of the producers that deliver to this plant. So that means there's 10% of the producers will have to probably find a new plant to go to. But if shackle space is tight, what happens with supply and demand? How many in here went to Econ 101? Supply and demand. So when the supply is high and demand doesn't shift, prices go down. And if you all look at the pork futures, the lean hog futures for this fall, December futures, where are they at? About $77. They're trading at least a $10 discount, if not a $20 discount to near months and farther away months. So market is building in a tight shackle supply. So if you figure for Tyson, it does make economic sense for them to close this plant, not only from an efficiency standpoint, but if the price this fall is affected because of tight shackle space, Tyson kills about 470,000 pigs a week. If the price is suppressed by $5, do the math. What's the math? It's over $2 million a week that they can save. So I don't fault Tyson for making an economic decision to close a plant. But if you all understand the economic sense of that, then the pressure really becomes that Tyson sells this plant to the next company. And the question I get a lot is, does this plant have value? In my humble opinion, I don't work for anybody, work for myself. My humble opinion, this plant does have value. Tyson has put a lot of money into this plant in the last 10 years. They've upgraded to a CO2 stunning, which is a big deal from a welfare standpoint, the chillers, the coolers, rendering, and wastewater. Their wastewater permits, as I understand it, are still in place. That has value for the next company willing to come in and operate it as a packing plant. And to me, the next best use of this is as a packing plant. I'll say that. If you don't like that, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. That's the truth from my perspective. The second question is, will Tyson sell this plant to a competitor? I hope the answer is yes. There are companies that are interested in this plant. And I think Tyson has been very open with Sven and Rachel about it, and I hope those open lines of communication continue on. From an economic development standpoint and new business attraction, the rubber is going to hit the road fairly quickly once prospects are identified and there's more interest in the plant. So I look forward to that. Now, having said those comments, I'm glad to introduce our panelists tonight. So to my right, Jocelyn Monzon. She's a care coordinator with Dallas County Hospital. Next to her is Rick Peterson. And Rick is the Chief Economic Growth Officer with Iowa Economic Development Authority. Chad Pierce is next to him. He's in business engagement with Iowa Workforce Development. You've probably seen Workforce Development has been very active here. And last but not least, Eric Kress. He is Executive Director of the Central Iowa Workforce Development Board. Now, I've seen all of these people, but never face-to-face. It's been on Zoom calls, and they look so much better in person than they do on Zoom. I'm going to have a series of questions for them, and hopefully when we get done, there'll be some time for a few questions at the end. We do have some time limitations, but we'll start, just ask each of the panelists to respond to this, and we'll start with Jocelyn. But tell us about your organization and what services they provide to the communities of Iowa.
Our Dallas County Hospital strives to provide quality and specialized care to our residents here in Dallas County. And we ship the providers and healthcare team. We share the responsibility in getting accessible care to all our residents, and we continue to strive for that. And with this transition and current events, we are gathering our services that we already have in place and just trying to strive through, and also be involved in conversations like this and try to learn from our experiences and the experiences from our patients who we serve. So, yeah.
Thank you. Rick?
Well, good evening. I just want to say thanks for everybody joining us here tonight. I know it's a lovely night. I'm grateful it wasn't last night. I think it would have had a much different outcome, but grateful everybody is here. And also just want to say, very humbled to serve on this team. I know there's a couple of us up here, but there's a number of others that are on these weekly calls, as Sven had mentioned. There's a tremendous amount of horsepower that is working on this project, not only just the short term, as mentioned up until the end of June, but also the midterm and the long term, and how the community, not only reacts to an event like this now, but how to prepare it and better from it in the long term. So my name is Rick Peterson. I'm the Chief Economic Growth Officer at Iowa Economic Development Authority. The role that I have there is really more leading teams that have our business development, our energy, our innovation platforming, arts and communities. We are a quality of life organization that constitutes business development, growth, attraction, and expansion. We're pulled into these opportunities, whether it's a new business coming to Iowa, or more importantly, helping businesses expand in Iowa and creating economic opportunities for the employees that work at those organizations. As I mentioned, we're humbled whether to be called into a new business or an event like this, and serve in a primary position of supporting the community, identifying opportunities. One of the things that we do really well at IEDA is generating those business relationships and creating those enhanced connections so that when we have opportunities come about, companies that may look to expand, we have that already turned in or turnkey opportunity to provide situations like this a placeholder to encourage and connect people with these opportunities.
Good evening, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Chad Pierce. I'm representing Iowa Workforce Development. We're a state agency that we seek to serve Iowans by building a better workforce for the future. We serve both job seekers and employers at our 15 American Job Centers throughout the state of Iowa. They're also called our Iowa Work Centers. On the job seeker side, we provide assistance to individuals, whether they're collecting unemployment insurance or looking to make a career change. We have career planners that work one-on-one with individuals that anything from workshops to resume assistance, mock interviews, just preparing individuals for that next great job opportunity. As far as working with employers, I'm part of the business engagement team. We're a team that's throughout the state of Iowa. Basically, our role is to connect employers with state and federal opportunities, resources that might be available. We assist with recruitment assistance, everything from job fairs to on-site recruiting events. We also help employers post jobs on our website, iowaworks.gov. Also, in addition, our organization serves veterans and Iowans with disabilities through our Home-Based Iowa program and our vocational rehabilitation services.
My name's Eric Kress. I'm the Executive Director for the Central Iowa Workforce Development Board. I'm the lone staff person for that organization, and I facilitate the work of 19 volunteer board members from the local area. We serve 8 central Iowa counties, including Dallas, so we're kind of local-ish, I guess, in that we serve a big chunk of central Iowa. Our goal is local workforce system strategy and coordination of services. We want to make sure that job seekers are able to connect with quality jobs that are needed by our employers in central Iowa. Part of that is connecting businesses, training providers, government programs, those various stakeholders that make up the career pathway for an employee and trying to make sure that they are, working together to make that connection between job seeker and employer. We directly monitor one program, and that's a program called Title I, and that provides career planners, training assistance, and supportive services to employees that have barriers to getting a quality job, including those that are impacted by mass layoff events like this one at Tyson. So again, while we don't manage a lot of programs directly, we work to create alignment to programs, accessibility, and try to ensure that programs are working hand in hand for the community. Again, I'm not a state employee. I don't have influence or necessarily authority to, make state programs happen in a certain way. But what I do have is a quality relationship with Iowa Workforce Development in their ear, and so that I can bring forward questions from our local stakeholders to the organization to try to discuss how we can, create, again, accessibility for services. So that's kind of my role.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Now, I want the panelists to go back to March 11th. That's the day, it was a Monday, when Tyson made their announcement about the closure. And if you can give us an idea of your first thoughts of how your organization was going to get involved and respond to this type of a mass layoff, a closure of a major employer within Perry. And Rick, we'll go ahead and start with you, and then we'll go down the table and come back to Jocelyn.
Yeah, so certainly I think caught us by surprise like everyone else. That being said, we have a tremendous team at IEDA and also other resources. We are also aligned with the Iowa Finance Authority. So certainly getting our internal team together to try to understand what was happening, gathering more information about the news, but also assembling our team again. What we do at IEDA is enhance the quality of life of Iowans with a focus on making Iowa the choice for people, business, and community. And so we have a great team, commodities team, that deals a lot with export and trade. We've worked protein harvest or packing house projects in the past, so certainly it was aligning our internal resources. I'm working closely with the governor's office on a response, as well as our partners with Iowa Workforce Development and other state agencies that would be brought in, and really looking at, again, what we could be doing, from a short-term perspective, mid-term perspective, and then looking long-term, leveraging these opportunities really to help the community kind of vision what this might look like 15, 20 years down the road, really taking a long look at it. But certainly getting our internal resources together, and then, understanding the timeline. What time did we have to work with? Obviously with the plant closure announcement, and then working closely with, again, the wonderful team here located in Perry and Dallas County. How can we assist in embedding ourselves with that group so that we can start the listening process and bringing in appropriate resources when and where necessary?
Great, thank you. Chad.
Our involvement, we were shocked to hear the news just like everybody else. Our involvement really began with our rapid response. We have a rapid response team with Iowa Workforce Development that responds to situations like this where there's a mass layoff or a plant closure. We kind of jump into the scene and help out, provide resources to not only the businesses impacted, the individuals that are impacted, helping them with information and kind of what the next steps could be, but also trying to help the community that was impacted as well. So, really a lot of that is information gathering, kind of trying to figure out what the need is in the community and with the people that are impacted, and then providing services for the workers that are impacted as well. We, as a part of the rapid response, we also deployed our mobile workforce unit. You guys may have seen that in the news or around town, but really that's kind of how we are involved at this point in the process.
Eric.
Yeah, well, the first thing I thought was, why does this always happen when I'm on vacation? And then after that, finished vacation and then got back to trying to figure out how we could help. One of the first things that our board did is we did call a meeting of various local, I say hyper-local local in terms of maybe area, meaning central Iowa, and then state organizations, just to try to survey the available resources that were out there, and try to get a feel for who's going to be on first for things, because this is very important to each of those stakeholders. It's important to Perry, it's important to Central Iowa, it's important to the state of Iowa. But everybody's got a little bit different perspective on it in terms of how they might go about relocating workers and this and that, and what the end goal is. So I felt that was pretty effective. It was on a Friday morning, I believe, following. And what I learned is that Perry had already taken efforts to try to convene and take lead in some of this solution. And that's where I got connected with Rachel from Dallas County Economic Development and Sven, and realized they already had a workforce team being built. And from there, just encourage those that fit that team, to continue to be part of that solution. And so I was trying to help streamline or survey resources so that you guys could best leverage them and we wouldn't, duplicate services.
Very good. Thank you. Jocelyn.
Okay. So our hospital wanted to actively, once they found out the news, we wanted to be active and reactive. So we are gathering our resources, our services, care coordination for addressing the social services that are the families that are being impacted by this. So I meet with this is something that I'm very familiar, is meeting with our patients and bridging the gap, the conversation between healthcare and social services, and also making them aware of available community services or services that are near that are available to them, like insurance, lack of insurance, medication costs, housing programs, supplemental nutrition programs and local food pantries, transportation assistance, and establishing primary care. It's just making them aware that we are here to support the families that we serve, and we'll continue to serve them in the best capacity that we can. Yep.
Okay, thank you. This question is for Chad. Can you explain the notice procedure and how IWD responds to when there's this mass type of layoff coming up?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when an incident like this occurs, there's a law called the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, or a WARN Act. Basically, any employer with over 100 employees is required to file a WARN Act anytime they have a mass layoff or a plant closure. Tyson actually gave us 90 days. The requirement is 60, so we were grateful that they gave the extra time to kind of get the ball rolling. The WARN Act really serves as a protection to workers and families and communities. It allows people time to prepare for the job loss, as well as finding new employment and or enrolling in any particular training opportunities. That's kind of what stemmed our rapid response in terms of that. And we swiftly kind of came onto the scene. We were out at Tyson for 2 days within a week of the announcement with our mobile workforce unit, just kind of answering preliminary questions and gathering information, meeting with the Tyson leadership team. Quickly on, we discovered a lot of the challenges that we were going to be facing in terms of the language barriers. A wonderfully diverse plant that has numerous languages that are spoken out there. So we were able to establish a transition center there on site, where we were staffing that 3 days a week, where Tyson workers could come before or after their shift just to ask questions. We had Iowa Works staff there, as well as community resources. And then also we conducted a series of worker information meetings, basically, again, providing some more detailed information to those that were impacted. Kind of different than most of the ones we've done in the past, and the fact that we had to kind of do several different languages and utilize interpreters. which was a challenge, but we certainly were successful in getting through that. And then we followed that up with a couple of career fairs. The first one occurred here back in April here in town at the Hotel Poste. We were in collaboration with Iowa Works. Lindsay with the Chamber and Eddie with DMAC did a lot of the heavy lifting on that. I think we had over 20 employers in attendance, and there were over 100 Impact and Tyson workers that came through the job fair. The first one we really wanted to put an emphasis on local employers, so letting everybody that wanted to remain in the Perry community, giving them the opportunity to do that. So that was a great success. Also, we're able to collect a lot of information about some of the services that individuals were needing moving forward. And then recently, last Thursday, we had a larger job fair out at the Armory here in town. We had 67 employers, kind of a little bit further radius than the initial job fair, but there were employers from all over the state that attended. We had over 400 job seekers come through the job fair, so we were quite pleased with that, and certainly had a lot of interpreters. Tyson was great in allowing us to utilize some of their interpreters, and Eric had some interpreters that he was able to help with as well. So that was a really great event, and moving forward, we're looking forward to doing potentially another event here in town, but really just be available for the impacted workers, not only leading up to the plant closure, but after the plant closure, whether that's assistance with unemployment or any resources that we can help with. We just want to be a helpful resource however possible.
Great, thank you. And this question is for Eric. Eric, I understand that there is assistance in the form of programming and funding for laid-off workers, as well as employers who are prospective employers looking for workforce. Can you tell us a little bit about the opportunities for that assistance, as well as how affected employees or prospective employers would gain access?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the commonalities a lot of us have up here is just the importance of helping people navigate the available resources. There are a lot of resources available. The hard part is just to know where to go and who does what and things like that. And so that's one of the things I think we're most doing is just trying to all serve as roles of navigator. And none of our organizations or programs can do it on their own. It takes local, state, area resources. It takes a number of programs to get that done, especially when your job seeker base is as diverse as this one. The workers that are displaced in this situation are incredibly skilled, hardworking, proven employees. However, from a resume standpoint, many of them are kind of behind because they may not always have a high school diploma or equivalency. They may not have a degree from a college or post-secondary education. They may not have English language acquisition, and navigating the resources that are available to you can be hard even when you do know English. But if you don't, or you have other cultural barriers, it's incredibly hard to navigate the resources that are available to you. And so first of all, I'd say that's, I think, the key role that all of us have is to be navigator. There is a funding stream called the Dislocated Worker Funding Stream, which is actually funded by the federal government, and it's passed down to local areas to be overseen by that county-driven group that I shared with you earlier. Dislocated worker funds can be used to help somebody get the reskilling or training they need and to attain a quality job that they right now are not able to get. And so if that's a course at DMAC that somebody needs because they identify they want to be a welder moving forward because they can't find a job as in production without moving their family in Perry, but they want to go that route, then we could hook them up with a career planner to help them talk about how to become that. That may mean we fund an activity at DMAC for them to learn that. That maybe we connect them to Iowa Building and Construction Trades for an apprenticeship program, but we can help fund those activities, provide them a career planner to help them make that work for them, as well as provide funding for supportive services. So for example, if someone needed to drive to Des Moines to go through that reskilling, there's transportation assistance there that could help them with like paying for mileage or some of those things that might be otherwise make it inefficient or impossible for them to access that training. On the flip side, we want to encourage employers to take a chance on an employee they might say doesn't already fit the ideal qualifications for the job that I'm hiring. So if there's a willing, hardworking person that they believe they could bring into the workforce, but they lack that license or that certification, but they're willing to give them a chance, then we can work with that employer to reimburse their wages up to 50% so that they can learn while they're on the job. Or we can cover the costs of things like maybe it's acquiring a CDL so that they can get a job in transportation. So it takes, so while the employer is taking on a little bit of a extra, it's a burden, don't love that word, but in training somebody that might not already have the qualifications, we can encourage that by covering some of the wages and training costs so that they give that person an opportunity to improve their situation. And I think in this case, I really hope that some people will walk away with even a better job than they had before, and this will all be a blessing in disguise, and that we can help make that, at least for some people, this an opportunity for upward mobility in the workforce.
Great, thank you. Rick, you've talked a little bit about your role with IEDA and the response to Tyson closing. Can you give us a view of maybe some of the opportunities the community should be looking at, pursuing, that could help offset the economic loss that Tyson is causing here, but then also maybe a little insight into new business attraction and how leads are generated and how to pursue those?
Yeah. So the first part of that question, one of the things we want to look at is always focusing on the opportunity. Site development is a big thing that we look for from the state of Iowa. We have a lot of ground here in Iowa, but not a lot of it is site ready. And I know Perry has invested in certifying sites and having sites available. And what that means is that infrastructure is there. There may be impact studies. There's engineering available that we can attract organizations, companies to come in. When you couple that with, as Eric mentioned, a very skilled workforce, we're now suddenly thrust into a position that virtually no other community, and certainly Iowa, but perhaps the United States, has available, which is site availability and a workforce. One of the things we hear the most often is that we have no workforce. We have no workforce. I think we're currently operating at a high 2 unemployment rate or thereabouts. And that is a challenge when you're looking to do retention and even expansion projects. Where are we going to get workers to come in and fill, run the machines? And what we're seeing now is even more skilled workers. It's not just physical labor on the line, but really the automation that's taking place. Manufacturing 4.0, the new industrial revolution, having that skilled workforce. So again, really focusing on those opportunities. The second part to your question is kind of the economic impact, right? Like how do we carry this over? What we see here in Iowa is a real benefit of there will be folks that may have to commute to other jobs, but keeping them retained here in Perry is ideal. And oftentimes what we talk about is maybe commute time. If you go to other states, other larger communities, some may have to travel a good hour and a half to get to a good job. Here we have lesser commute times. The economy of living here is much more economical than that you may get in other parts, maybe of the state, but also certainly in the United States, and that's always a position we look for as well. But certainly, I think the main takeaway is really focusing on those opportunities. It can be very easy to be very hyper-focused on this, and it's a big issue. Don't get me wrong, it's a number of workers that are affected. But certainly, as we work with this team, certainly don't let opportunities pass up. See where those opportunities are, the investments that this community has made and has made for a significant amount of time with that infrastructure and leverage that to either attract or invite those businesses here locally or regionally on expansion opportunities.
Great, thank you. Jocelyn, the Dallas County Hospital has been a real blessing for our community for many years. And I know personally I've used the Dallas County Hospital, and I give them credit for saving my life back in 2016 in the ER. And I would tell the audience, if you're a middle-aged man and you can't catch your breath and you have chest pain, the ER really takes, real interest in you right away. So I appreciate that. But, the Perry community has really endured a lot of trauma and tragedy this year. And we do heavily rely on the services from Dallas County Hospital. Can you share what resources are available to the community through the hospital, and then also what affected employees and their families can expect from healthcare from Dallas County Hospital?
I would like to start by saying that we are here for our employees and families, and that we're going to continue to provide healthcare and our resources. And some of the resources available now that are helping our patients that have been impacted are care coordination services for to seek social services, and senior health insurance program counselor, and financial counseling. We are also certified for Medicaid presumptive eligibility that could provide instant Medicaid insurance. And then we also have our mobile food pantry, and we have been connecting with the Food Bank of Iowa to try to increase our food that is available and to be distributed to our residents. We are already seeing isolation identified by our patients, food insecurities, housing insecurities. So just having our patients be aware of those services and whoever is being affected here in Dallas County.
Great, thank you. Well, as you can tell, we have a great panel up here. And in order to continue this dialogue and discussion, I'd like to ask if there are any questions from the audience. And I would ask if you limit to a short question and not make any speeches or long comments. So, Lou.
Yes, I'm curious if any of our community leaders have been or financial institutions. I'm assuming that many of our former Tyson employees might be commuting a distance to other places. Some might find local employment. In both those cases, there is going to be a reduced net income in that household. And I'm wondering if we've discussed with the financial institutions redoing some of those mortgages at an acceptable interest rate that will allow them to continue to meet the commitments of that mortgage on that house that they invested in for that many years.
Okay.
And I'm recommending that we do need financial institutions to consider that.
Yeah. So Lou's question is, have any of the leadership had discussions with financial institutions looking at the reduced incomes and the possibility of renegotiating mortgages and mortgage rates? And I don't think up here the panel probably is prepared. Sven, you want to answer that, or?
I don't necessarily have a exactly direct answer for you. I'll start by saying one of the great things about going through this in a small town is that everybody on that PerryNext group wears multiple hats. I think Eddie has about 5 or 6 hats that he wears, but Matt McDivitt with Raccoon Valley Bank is on the PerryNext group, so he would probably be the yeah. And maybe we could all sign a petition about interest rates while we're at it. But so in some of our conversations with Director Durham of IEDA and the governor, we have talked about kind of a pilot program or some financial assistance around housing. So that is everything. And if you know my mother, which most of you probably do. She's creative, and that creative gene was passed to me in a different way. So my mind has been bopping all around with different solutions, but one of the programs that we're looking at is the possibility of having a fund to be able to possibly acquire homes, and maybe for folks that, have a job July 1st and need to get out of town, there could be some money there to be able to acquire that house, rehab it, and then sell it affordably. But we've also had a lot of conversations around opportunities for not only mortgage assistance, but also rental assistance in this transition time as people move employment. So that's definitely been part of the conversation, and it's in our minds.
Thanks, Lou. Any other questions anybody has? John?
I guess the question I would have is why Perry plant? What do you know or what do you suspect?
I can comment some on that.
He's the pork expert.
So since about 2016, there's been a real movement within the packing industry to want to double shift plants, which means they run 2 shifts, because that makes the plant more efficient. And Tyson has 2 single shift plants in their system right now in Iowa, Perry being one, and Columbus Junction. Storm Lake is double shifted, and Waterloo is double shifted, so they kill twice as many pigs. But the experts in ag economics have also pushed that idea that plants need to double shift. Because of the age of the Perry plant, the physical space, it's a 2-story plant, and the ability to hire enough workers to double shift, they've not been able to double shift Perry. So I don't know inside of Tyson what the discussion was, but it probably came down to discussing, do we close Perry or do we close Columbus Junction? And they chose Perry. But I've had a conversation with a producer down by Columbus Junction who was very worried that they'll be next on the chopping block. So efficiency is part of it. I think also the location of the producers delivering to the plants. Storm Lake is not that far away from Perry, that it's an easier distribution of those producers to go to Storm Lake rather than Columbus Junction or Waterloo. So that's officially it's the inefficiency of the plant is what Tyson has said. So, anyway. Okay. Another question over here. Kathy.
Will there be an effect in the hospital of workers that are spouses of Tyson? Will you lose people that are living in town?
Sorry.
I think the question would be, is there going to be a ripple effect from, so if one in the family works at Tyson's and is dislocated, leaves the community, is there a chance that you will lose employees as well? Is that right, Kathy? Okay.
At this time, we haven't seen any signs of, or we've been communicated by our administrators that we're currently fine, and we're just focusing on improving our services. And as more information comes, then we will be able to address it when it comes.
But I think that's a legitimate concern for a lot of employers in Perry, that if they have a spouse, if a worker has a spouse that's going to be dislocated. Just anecdotally, I know in talking with workers from Tyson who have been in the community for a very long time, own their homes, their families have grown up, their families live here, they want to stay in the area, and they're reluctant to leave Perry, which I think those of us who've lived in Perry for a long time can appreciate. It's a great place to live. So. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can you just give some suggestions for the average month of how we could be helping in any way whatsoever?
Anybody from the panel want to address that? Sven? Yeah, just on average, for the average person, of what can they do to help with the situation here? I guess my first comment would be, part of it is just, we appreciate you being here tonight and trying to elevate the knowledge of the average person of what's going on behind the scenes, because I think there's always been a lot of rumors and questions about, well, nobody's doing anything. But in reality, you can see with these panelists who've been involved right from the start, with Mayor Cavanaugh, with Sven Peterson, Rachel Wacker, a lot of people have been doing a lot of things. So it doesn't always get publicized, and there are confidential information that can't be shared. But it's like a duck swimming through the water. It looks really calm on the top, but underneath they're paddling just as fast as their little legs can go. I don't know if anybody else has any recommendations. Dirk?
Just like to say that one thing you can do is kind of be patient. Like you say, you don't see a lot of action, but there are a lot of things going on. And until we get somebody in and a new employer, we can't really announce too much. But there are a lot of activities going on, trying to find people, working with them to get here. And so your patience is appreciated. And it's probably going to take some time because even if they find someone to buy the plant, the thought that they're going to move in on July 28th and take right over is pretty slim. So there is going to be a period of time in between that we're going to have to work hard to keep people around, keep them comfortable, happy, fed, housed. And we may need some help at that time with people in the community that could help. And so, like I said, we're working really hard, and we're going to get through this. So, just
Yeah, and I would also echo the mayor's comments. I think it's been a heck of a year for all of us, and I think if I've learned one thing, it's that situations like this really help the community come together, and that's what I've been witnessing since January, and that continues even as we continue to heal from that and deal with this. Just the way that this community has come together has really been incredible. But a common theme that we've always talked about is just taking care of our people. So that's, for us, that means everything from helping try and find them jobs, whether it's a local employer, doing everything we can to just make every phone call possible to anybody and everybody to help get somebody to take over the Tyson plant, hawking our certified site in the 30,000 square foot shell building with 30-foot sidewalls that's ready for anybody to move into. But, I guess I'll point to Lou. I'm sure from everything from volunteer time to money to help supply those things that maybe the Food Bank of Iowa doesn't supply. I know Lou probably has a couple dozen shopping carts when he goes shopping, but and there's a wide variety. We've talked, and there's all sorts of personal care products that those folks will need, things like that. So, definitely be on the lookout for those opportunities, as well as churches with the clothes closets and just kind of that household closet that Crossroads has. But I think for us, for a while, it's going to be a couple of years that we're working through this. But I think really just sticking together and taking care of our people is the best thing. And Lori, you're not a schmuck, don't worry.
I think we summarize that with, having kindness, empathy, and understanding for our community is really important. Eric?
Yeah, I think that just that general encouragement and know that people's mental health maybe is taking a little bit of a hit by this, and just everybody needs cheerleaders encouragement right now, but also just encourage people that their potential, not to be trapped into they don't have opportunity just because as a worker, just because maybe you were recruited here to be on the production line or something like that doesn't mean that's all you can be, and it doesn't mean you have to move. So for example, we're working with Central Iowa Buildings and Construction Trades for a 3-day training in the first week of July, or second week of July after the holiday. 40 spots, it's free. You're gonna get 3 days of career exploration into building and construction trades. You're gonna get free PPE equipment. You're gonna get an OSHA 10 certificate, and you're gonna get access to union affiliated employers that are gonna consider hiring you. You don't have to move then. Because if you have a car, you can drive to where the work site is, and you can become a carpenter. You get a union job as a carpenter or a laborer or something along those lines. And so, and you already have the work ethic and the skill set and such to be that. So just maybe if you never thought of yourself as somebody that, can do that job because you haven't been taught so far, help people dream, forward to finding that next position, because they could leave with even a better job, and they don't have to necessarily move. A career in DMAC, Eddie, you guys, transportation, right? You could potentially get a job in transportation. You don't have to relocate your family. You could earn good wages. Talk to DMAC about how to get that done. So help people envision the potential and the possible opportunity.
Great advice. Time for one last question that anybody has. Okay.
I don't know if you guys can answer this. Do the employees have an understanding of the point of contact for the services?
Chad or
I would say that yes. I mean, that's definitely been our goal from day one, as far as our rapid responses, to make sure that everybody has access to all the services and programs that are available. So that's certainly been our goal, and I'd like to think that we've accomplished that as well.
And I think DMAC's been very involved with that. Eddie Diaz is here. I think they've been really proactive, as well as Lindsay, with directing people and getting questions answered. So I think it's been a great effort. Before we move on, there are a couple other individuals in the crowd I'd like to introduce that have been interested in the situation. We have Senator Jesse Green here. He represents this district. He's been engaged now with several of us with asking questions and learning more about Perry. Then Matt Russell with USDA, Rural Economic Development there. He's been involved as well. I've had some discussions about this. But before I turn this over to Mayor Cavanaugh, there's a quote that I like to leave you from my part of the program, and it's from Nathaniel Brandon, who wrote The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, if you've ever heard about that. And this is a favorite, it's a favorite of law enforcement, and I have a son that's involved in law enforcement. And it goes like this: no one is coming to save us. No one is coming to make life easier for us. No one is coming to solve my problems. If we don't do something, nothing is going to get better. And I think, to me, that really symbolizes the effort that's been going on with these folks up here in the panel, but a lot of other folks too. And if you read the Des Moines Register article, the advice from Cherokee was take action, don't wait, because their situation was similar and it didn't turn out very well. But thinking that someone is going to come save us is not a plan. And if we think like that, it's going to be a tragedy. So with these people up here, with the leadership on our city, the Greater Dallas County Alliance with Rachel and all of you, it's really up to us in the community and to find those partners that want to help us. And that's what's going to get us through this. Now, I'd like you to give a hand to the panelists. They've been very kind and answered our questions tonight. And I think they'll be around for a little bit afterwards, so if you have other questions you want to ask, they're very open. Thank you to Sven as well for introducing me. I'm not an expert in anything, as you can tell. But then I would introduce Mayor Cavanaugh. Now, Dirk is an interesting story about being mayor. When he came, he said yes to running for mayor. He had no clue what was going to happen in Perry. But I tell you what, I am so glad as a business owner here in Perry that he is our mayor. And he's going to have some closing remarks for us.
Okay. First off, I did want to say that we also have some representatives from Senator Ernst and Congressman Nuns are here in the back, so thank them for coming in. But I want to start out by thanking all of today's panelists for their time and insight on the closure and the resources available to our community. Thank you for all the efforts you put in up to this point. We have many other groups working tirelessly to get us through this transition, and I'd like to thank all of them too. Even though they weren't panelists, they've been working hard behind the scenes, and we're making progress. I want to thank all of you for coming here today and being interested enough to participate. hope this was helpful to you. Want you to remember that the PerryNext website is out there, and it's going to be up-to-date resources and information there at all times. The website is at www.perrya.org, and then you need to click on the PerryNext tab under the city logo. And like I say, we update that regularly. We will put some of the excerpts from this on that page. We also have links to full videos on YouTube in that site. Our plan is to have regular update sessions as we develop and implement a recovery plan. We have a lot of great people from Perry, the county, and the state helping us. The collaboration will help us to mitigate the damages and rebuild our community. It may take us a bit of time, but I am confident that we will get through this together. And so thank you all for your help. And like I say, if we haven't asked you for help yet, the time will come when we'll probably be asking for that. But thank you all. So any questions?
You two want to take any questions? Anybody has any questions for them? All right. If not, again, I thank you for your kind attendance tonight. If you have other questions for any of us up here, be sure to bring them forward. Thanks again.